introduction. My name is Sheena, and I'm from IntelliCap, and we're a management consultancy based in Kenya. So we've just done a short presentation highlighting the challenges faced by SMEs, and as you all know, it's finance is probably the main challenge. Okay, so a bit about IntelliCap. I'm part of the consulting team, and we do consulting and research. In fact, this presentation is based on a research paper that we've done with the DGGF, Dutch Good Growth Fund, and the link to it will be on the presentation, so feel free to download the whole paper, because actually it's about an 80-page research based in Kenya, but I think very applicable to East Africa. So with consulting, we do research, and also we work with NGOs, development funds, corporates, and the whole idea is collaboration to solve the problem, because at IntelliCap we believe that social business is the answer. Business is the answer to solve social problems, and also collaboration between different parties are needed. Along with consulting and research, we also have what's called the IntelliCap Impact Investment Network. And what that is we look at enterprises, we scale them, see which ones have potential to scale, and link them up with angel investors. IntelliCap has set up its own angel impact investor fund for East Africa. There's also the SunCult Forum, and the SunCult Forum is something I hope that many of you will attend. It's annual, it's based in Nairobi, February 2016, and I'm happy to send you information, but really it's got 700 participants from 30 countries all over East Africa, Asia, and it's just a dialogue again. What are the challenges faced by SMEs, and getting thought leaders out there running sessions so that everybody can contribute. So the main question is, as the SMEs, and what are the problems they face? This paper was focused on Kenya, and what we found is actually the SME sector contributes a lot to Kenya. So 80% of employment is through SMEs, and actually SMEs contribute to 20% of the GDP. Yet, they're the ones who find it most difficult to access finance. So, as I think was mentioned earlier, MFIs are there to tackle the really small businesses that need the finance, and we have the private equity, the banking sector for the big businesses. It's the ones in the middle that suffer the most. So access to finance is key, and we're going to need innovative solutions and a collaborative ecosystem to deal with this. Okay, this looks like a very complicated slide, and it's IntelliCap research, so I have to put it up. But really, what it shows is it's comparing Kenya and it's benchmarking it with East Africa. And whilst Kenya is it's considered an innovation hub, so it's considered Africa's Silicon Savannah, and there's been a lot of investment in Kenya. So for example, venture capital funds have committed around 93 million in Kenya since 2012, and private equity investors have contributed around $86 million in Kenya. And yet, we still keep hearing access to finance is key. So what are the problems? The entrepreneurs are there. Apparently there seems to be money, so sort of what is going on? Business support. I mean, there are almost 24 incubator organizations in Kenya. So the challenge is, if the landscape is there, why is finance still such a big problem? And I think in order to understand this, we need to know 68% of SMEs, despite all this, quote, access to finance as a problem. But when we look at SMEs, we can't just look at SMEs. SMEs are highly segmented. So you have those high-tech, tech finance related startups, and they're the gazelles that everybody sort of wants a piece of. But that's not all the SMEs that are there. There's some necessity entrepreneurs. In Kenya, we call it the jua kali sector. So they're here to, they're just there to survive. And then some of them become successful. And then there's parallel investors, parallel businesses who have lots and lots of businesses. We have the small, low-growth startups, small, medium-sized growth startups. So there's lots of different types of SMEs, and they all have different challenges. They have different challenges and needs. I can't do this myself. So there's two challenges, which is the expansion-related challenges and also the productivity-related challenges. And those are the kind of problems that need to be solved, and we need different players to come in. Now, in the IntelliCap paper, we identified 4 problems. First of all, there's a lack of seed and angel capital to start off the business. Now, from our research, we actually found out that angel investing is quite a recent trend in Kenya, and in fact, $10 million US has been invested in Kenya since 2008. That's a fairly chunky amount. However, only 2% of that amount has been invested into startups, and most of them are in technology. So why? Why are angels not investing in startups, and what can enterprises do about it? Now, what we found, one of the reasons was there's actually a lack of awareness. Angels don't know how to identify what are viable businesses for them to invest in, what are the businesses that will scale. And actually, entrepreneurs aren't also aware of what the benefits are to having an angel. And some of them don't have the structure set up. They don't really formalize. So it's very hard then for them to link with angels. The second issue is enterprises have difficulty getting long-term growth capital. So that's debt and equity finance. Now, private equity investors expect returns of about 20%. That's something that most SMEs are not going to be able to address. So we look at banks, and actually banks are trying. Banks are trying to meet this demand for SMEs. However, our research has found there's still a credit gap of about $5 billion that the SMEs need and the banks aren't able to meet. So why, if banks want to lend and enterprises want the money, what's happening? And actually there's supply side challenges and demand side challenges. So supply side challenges include things like there's a lack of customized products. The definition of collateral is very rigid. You need high strict collateral requirements. Interest rates are pretty high. I think you have about 18%. But you also have supply side challenges, which is actually entrepreneurs and enterprises, they lack awareness about the kind of products. And they struggle with investment-ready financial models. Or sometimes it's simple as they just can't articulate their business plans, and so they can't get the finance. Finally, we look at business support. And a survey by Monitor Group showed that actually 30% of Kenyan enterprises believe that business support meets business needs, only 30%. 13% believe that the services are affordable, and actually only 33% believe the services deliver value for money. So we do have businesses, but we do have support, but businesses are still feeling that there's not enough support. So why is that? Well, what we found is a lot of the business support is focused in the capital cities. So for example, in Nairobi, you have lots of incubator type organizations, but actually the support is required all over the country and not just in the cities. And also it shouldn't all just be tech focused, which at the moment, generally I think tends to be the case. Finally, I think is the main problem, which is the linkages in the ecosystem. What we need is the ecosystem is very fragmented, and what we need is people to be able to get the support they need, and also people to be able to show what support there is. There are some platforms, but they need to be scaled up. However, there are solutions, and actually many stakeholders are trying to fill in the gaps. So, for example, in Kenya we have chamas, and what they're like these unique investment groups which pool savings together, and the objective is to make joint investments. Then we have angel networks that have been set up. We have the Kenya Angel Investor Network, we have Victoria Solutions, and we have our own IntelliCaps Investing Network, which again tries to fill this critical need for early stage funding. Another solution for the long-term capital growth would be mezzanine finance, and actually there are players there such as Growfin, and what they're doing is developing hybrid solutions. So there's low collateral requirements, fixed interest, but of course you can convert into an equity in case there's default. Other impact investors, we have like Northstar Ventures. They're providing capital as well as critical advisory services. VC4 for Africa, they're leveraging technology. Growth Africa, and of course specialized service providers who try and make investment-ready enterprises. So we have all these players, and we have all these problems. The solution then is technology. I think what we need to do is we need to make this support system more accessible. We need people to know exactly what support is available. And you can do that through tech-enabled information platforms, portals, and other infrastructure. Secondly, you have angel investing. So how will you there's a lot of interest for people to invest in these funds. So from high net worth individuals or diaspora. So what we need to do is we need to work together to adjust the framework conditions for investing, attract capital from outside the country, prevent things like double taxation, restricted repatriation laws, and engage in policy advocacy. So actually we can get a lot of funds flowing in to invest in these businesses. Thirdly, I would say that increase the supply of mezzanine. So you need to work with banks, other key players, and have people come in to fill this gap, to target the missing middle. And finally, you have to have collaborations, so things like media platforms, business networks, industry gatherings, and apologies, that was my own note to self, but yeah, fun help. Sorry. This is clearly not a final presentation. And yeah, so SoundCloud would be a great forum, for example, to carry on having such dialogue. Note to self. Okay. And I just thought, with the panel as well and the rest of you, these are the kind of, this research study was done in Kenya, so it was focused on Nairobi, Mombasa, and Nakuru. But from our research, we found that similar challenges that exist across East Africa. So it's sort of maybe having a discussion of the sort of challenges you've encountered. Maybe there are other innovative forms of collaboration that we can come up with to solve these problems. And if there are any knowledge gaps, because I think research is the answer to filling this gap. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Sheila, for your insights. So as you know, all the talks we've heard today have talked about the gap in the middle, and social. This is what this panel is going to be discussing. Social enterprises receive support at the very early stage from DFIs, NGOs, and family members, but at the second stage, where they're trying to achieve scale, this is where they struggle to find financing, and this is because you need a different type of investor. So many innovative social enterprises fail to achieve scale and fulfill their potential. Our panel here is all involved at this second stage, and they're going to give us their experience and insights into how to reduce the experience in terms of how they reduce the gap in the middle. I'm going to ask each of them to introduce themselves and tell us briefly in 5 minutes, around 5 minutes, what they do, and then we'll proceed to the discussion. I want this session to be as interactive as possible, and so I'll try and leave around 30 minutes at the end for the Q&A. So we'll start off with Erastus, and then we'll go with that.
Good morning.
Sorry?
Good morning. Thank you. My name is Erastus Kibugu, and I manage a company called Onward Resources International. Onward Resources International works to really bridge the gap between private sector and private enterprise. Can you hear me?
Not so loud.
Not so loud. Do you want me to shout? Scream? I'm a big voice, so I can really scream if I meant to. So I just started by saying that my name is Erastus Kibugu. I'm the managing director of Onward Resources International. Onward Resources works to really bridge the worlds of private enterprise with economic development, or the world of social upliftment. And this is both the social business, but also a consulting business and a capital raising business. And the origins of it was really driven by my and our other founders' experiences, where we found that there was a huge amount of work going into technical assistance, which is still something that we do and we have a lot of respect for. But that often it was difficult to translate that from the kind of the head knowledge to there's a check on the table and there's money in the bank account on the one part. And then on the other part was just our experience around having large companies, helping supply chains to become more efficient and helping private sector be able to interact profitably with local SMEs and local businesses. And we found that there was also a space there very much similar to some of the concerns that have been raised. And so Honored Resources International therefore works in strategy development. We do technical due diligence, and that involves anywhere from, for example, in agriculture, which is one of the areas in agribusiness that we are very strong in. It involves, for example, getting down to like the farms and figuring out how much soil remediation will be needed to get the sort of yield levels that are needed. It's often very easy that people assume that, you know, we're going to get into this agribusiness and we're going to get smallholder farmers as contracted farmers, but there is often a lot less attention in terms of how much yield, for example, you can expect, and really then building financial models and really being able to build up scenarios on the basis of an actuality. You know, there's a soil analysis report that I have here, and I know that these are some of the repetitions that we need. So it really is all the way from that to helping in governance of the private sector companies and helping structure partnerships and joint ventures, dealing with the issues of mistrust between, let's say, Western-based businesses or large businesses and more like local or regional businesses, and really sitting in there as honest brokers who can help these conversations to happen. Before Honored Resources, I was country director for TechnoServe, and so I have bring in a lot of experience in terms of enterprise development and agriculture and corporate partnerships. And prior to that, I was director of marketing for a social business. And then prior to that, I was in management consulting, focusing on SMEs across Eastern Africa. I also sit as the chair of the Impact Committee of the Power Capital Partners, and my friend Wajohi and the team are represented here. So again, really bringing a lot of knowledge about some of the intricacies and the ins and outs of what challenges businesses, not just in Uganda, but across Eastern Southern Africa, face. So I think that's a space that it's so huge. I mean, it's very easy to just plug it up on a flip chart and say it's SME, it's this and that. But really, the details of it, as we all know, are really where the intricacies really are, and I think that's something that we need to appreciate, and that's something that we're very keen to help make sure that small businesses, women, the empowerment of women and youth, etc., can move forward in ways in which everybody benefits. So I look forward to this, and thank you, Veronica and the team, for having me to come over. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Erastus. Our next panelist will be